What a good answer.
Good morning, Chavra. Today's the 14th day of Tammuz. In today's lesson, we're going to continue as we discuss the different fasts and giving tzedakah. Teshuvah, remember we mentioned Tashuv Hey. Teshuvah, the word Teshuvah is Tashuv Hey, returning the Hey to the Yud Kei Vav Kei. The lower level of Teshuvah is the lower Hey, the second Hey, next to the Vav. And the higher level of Teshuvah is returning the higher Hey to the first part of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now he says, how come there are people that are subject to all sorts of harsh punishments that it says they shouldn't be living so lavish lifestyles, and they seem to be living and flourishing? So that's how we ended yesterday. In today's lesson, the neshama is a portion of Hashem. So the Torah is metaphor of Hashem blowing the souls into one's nostrils versus speaking suggests from deep within. It comes from deep within. The difference between speaking, when you speak, it comes out of your mouth. But if you take a deep breath and you blow very hard, so it comes from deep inside your chest, inside the essence, inside your soul, or not your soul, but from inside of you. And it takes a lot more strength. You can't take deep breaths and blow too much. You'll get dizzy, right? And speak. We know some people that could speak uninterrupted for a long time, fortunately or unfortunately. So the fact that people are able to live a long time even after they do sins, and even after they may have had to suffer chas v'shalom kares or Mrs. Bezdin. Why? Because the key to this is found in the pasuk, Ki chelek Hashem amoy, Hashem's people are part of God. Chelek b'shem havai baruch hu. They're part of the four-letter name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. K'dichsiv vayipach ba'apo nishmas chayim. The pasuk describes how Hashem infused the soul into Adam HaRishon, and he blew into his nostrils the soul of life. Oman denafach meitayfei nafach. And as the Zohar comments, he who blows does so from deep within. So the metaphor of blowing signifies that the neshama of a Jew originates in the innermost aspect of Hashem, in the Yud Kei Vav Kei, as shall soon be explained.
He was a part of and also okay.
That's right.
So every God has also
and Hashem has no bodily form. So what does it mean that Hashem blew? What does it mean that Hashem spoke? Hashem doesn't speak. Hashem doesn't have a mouth. It's a as we were saying, we've been talking about this anthropomorphism that the Torah speaks in the language of men. By way of an analogy, there exists a vast difference in the case of the way a person takes a deep breath and issues from his mouth while speaking, and the breath of forcefully blowing. So we've mentioned this already. The breath that usually comes out with speech embodies the soul's power and life force only minimally. You could speak and speak for a long time. And this is only from the superficial aspects of the neshama that dwells. It's still coming from inside of his lungs. He has to take a breath once in a while. But the breath that issues forth when a person blows forcefully from deep within him, it embodies the internal power and life force of the neshama, the nefesh hachaya that gives him life. So just as there exists a vast difference between man speaking and blowing deep from deep within him, obviously when we give a mashal, it doesn't line up. Hashem doesn't take a deep breath, and Hashem doesn't speak with his mouth. He doesn't have all this. But we're trying to give some kind of an analogy to understand, at least on a superficial level. So too, however that works out with Hashem, that he spoke and he brought the world into existence, and then he dug down deep to breathe into the nostrils the breath of life. So it's going to be two different things. When when everything was created, v'chayim v'kayam b'chinas chitzonim achayis v'shefa shemashpia ein soif baruch hu lachiyas ha'olamois. They derive their life force that comes from the Eibishter. Hashem spoke, Baruch she'amar v'haya olam. Hashem spoke, the world came into being. B'chinazu nikra b'shem ruach piva derech mashuk mashkasu b'ruach piv katzvam. And this creative power is embodied in the letters of the Sora Mamoris, the 10 utterances. And here in parentheses it says, we already talked about this previously. So we have that everything is created, something from nothing, and Hashem spoke and it came into existence. That's how it happened. And then we have the difference between Nishmas Adam, in contrast, the Neshama derives initially from the innermost aspect of life force and flows issuing from Hashem. It says in the pasuk, and he blew. As mentioned earlier, this verb that's written in the Torah, it wouldn't have said it if we say, oh, different, but it said it. It says Vayipach. So it means something different. What does that mean? No, it's not the same thing the way we take a deep breath. No. But still, it's showing that it comes from the innermost of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not the external aspect, so to speak. So the soul originates from deep inside the Eibishter. V'achakach yored domiseisan amadrega gamkein aidei b'chinas ha'isius shemaymer nasa odom. And then it descends through ever more concealing planes. It goes through all the different Seder Shtalshalos, like the angels were created by means of letters. By the means of letters that comprised of the Asar Mamoris. Let us make man. So man is made, but then comes the neshama. That comes after. Man is made in order that it could eventually be invested. The soul is invested into the body down here into this physical world. So this then is the difference between souls and angels. Angels are another form of creation. A neshama of a yid takes on a whole new character. The souls.
Why would it say Yid? Adam wasn't a Yid. Adam was the father of Goyim and Yid.
That's true. Souls derive from the innermost aspect of godliness. Adam Arishan was the root soul of all souls. So also Yidden came from the soul. It had to be, it was a very, very high level. And everything came and it doesn't detract. Yet, okay, this is the difference between the souls and the angels. The Neshama is derived from the innermost aspect of godliness. The Yud Kei Vav Kei. While angels are rooted in the external aspect of Hashem, the divine name Elikim, which is creation, just like all other creations. For this reason, the pasuk calls angels Elikim k'moshe kosov ki Hashem Elikechem hu Elikeo Elikim, as the pasuk says, for Hashem, He is the God of God's Elikim, and the last word here is referring to angels. Hoidu Elikeo Elikim, and likewise in the pasuk in Tehillim it says, praise Hashem, the God of gods, and here we're referring to the angels by the name Elikim. In another pasuk it says, in Eov it says, and yet in another reference, the sons of Hashem Elikim came to present themselves. So the name Elikim is referring to angels. Because they derive their existence and their energy, the external degree of godliness, which is merely the state of letters, quote unquote. Similarly, the name Elikim is an external state relative to the Yud Kei Vav Kei. But when it comes to the neshama, the soul of man, deriving from the internal aspect of Hashem's vivifying power, this is a part of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shem Havaya Baruch Hu, from the name Havaya. Kishem Havaya Moira Al Pnimis Achayos. For the Yud Kei Vav Kei indicates the innermost dimensions of the life-giving power, Shehila Maila Maila B'chinas Ha'isius, which is far greater, more powerful, more potent than the transcending letters of Elikim. So the takeaway for today, Chavra, is that the energy in blowing originates from the core of a person. And therefore, one cannot blow air for the same amount of time as one speaks. And this shows that it's deeply rooted within that. It takes a lot of energy, right? How many times can you take a deep breath and blow? 5 times, 10 times. But after that, you start getting dizzy. Similarly, the neshama is described metaphorically. Again, the Alter Rebbe says many times that every time we bring a mashal, you can always find holes. But here we're saying that metaphorically, the soul of man is described as being blown by Hashem, suggesting that it originates deep from within Hashem, deeper than the worldly creations, which came from Hashem's speech. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we're in the same parak, and we'll continue along this inyan to be mevarer this inyan, to explain it a little bit deeper and a little bit more. All right, Chava, thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.